It was supposed to be a simple movie kiss. But what happened behind the scenes of Poetic Justice in 1993 became one of Hollywood's most shocking secrets, a clash between two rising legends. Janet Jackson, the pop princess of perfection, and Tupac Shakur, the rebel poet who refused to bow to anyone. When fans saw them on screen, they believed the chemistry was real. The quiet hairdresser Justice and the streetwise poet Lucky, drawn together by pain and poetry. But off-camera, that connection was ice cold. Because before the cameras rolled on their first romantic scene, Janet Jackson made a private demand that would change everything. According to a new biography, "Only God Can Judge Me. The Many Lives of Tupac Shakur," Jackson refused to film the kissing scene until Tupac agreed to take an AIDS test. At first, no one believed it. Why would one of the most respected women in music make such a request? But on set, the tension was real. Tupac had been joking all week about how he was going to overwhelm Janet with his lips and tongue. He thought he was being funny. She didn't. Producer Steve Nicolaides got the call to Janet's trailer. She sat there with her fiancé, Renee Elizondo Jr., serious and direct. "Tupac's reputation is that he's a cat about town," she said, "and I don't want to swap saliva with him until I'm really sure he's healthy and clean." It was the early 1990s, the height of fear over HIV and AIDS. People were dying, and misinformation was everywhere. But for Tupac, this wasn't about health. It was about respect. When Nicolaides walked into Tupac's trailer and delivered the message, Tupac froze. "You kidding?" he asked. When the producer said no, Tupac exploded. "Fire her! I ain't doing sabiats for that boy. Tell her to go fuck herself." He never took the test. And that kiss, it happened, but with tension thick enough to cut with a knife. From that moment on, the relationship between Janet and Tupac was broken. What was meant to be a collaboration between two icons became a Cold War fought in silence and side glances. The Hollywood climate of 1993. To understand why that single request caused such chaos, you have to go back to Hollywood in 1993. It was a time of extremes. The AIDS epidemic still terrified the world. There were no quick tests, no reliable treatments, just fear. And in that world of fear, Tupac represented the unknown. At 22, he was fire and poetry, raw energy wrapped in controversy. Janet, on the other hand, was untouchable, the blueprint of discipline and control. When they met on the set of Poetic Justice, it was supposed to be magic, the crossover between R&B elegance and hip-hop truth. But the gap between their worlds was too wide. She came to work in helicopters, surrounded by a team of stylists and security. He arrived in a car, alone, joking with the crew. Two people with fame, but completely different definitions of it. And when she asked for that test, it wasn't just about health. It was about power, protection, and image. And Tupac, who had spent his life fighting to be taken seriously, saw it as an insult he couldn't ignore. The request that started it all. When the time came to shoot the scene, producer Steve Nicolaides found himself stuck in the middle. Janet didn't want confrontation. She just wanted a guarantee. Tupac didn't want humiliation. He wanted respect. So when the producer told him about the test, Tupac's calm disappeared. That was the moment everything shifted. "You kidding?" "No." "Then fuck her." According to Nicolaides, Tupac wasn't just mad, he was hurt. "And honestly," the producer said later, "I can't blame Janet for asking. It was a scary time, but he never got the test." The kiss went ahead anyway, silent, professional, but cold. To the audience, it looked romantic. To the cast and crew, it looked like survival. And from that day on, the tension between them was real. Behind the scenes, ego, class, and power. After that moment, the entire set changed. Janet was treated like royalty. Private chefs, stylists, security. Tupac, meanwhile, ate with the crew, played dominoes, and kept things loose. He noticed the difference, and he didn't hide it. "I got a car service bringing me to work every day," he said. "She's getting helicopters landing her on set. Every day I'm eating chicken and waffles. She's getting her stuff catered." To him, it wasn't jealousy. It was about respect. How could they be equals on screen when everything off-screen screamed hierarchy? Actor John Cothran later said, "He made it clear he was pissed about getting less than Janet. To me, that seemed absurd, because I didn't even know who the hell he was." That's the point. Janet was already a superstar. Tupac was still fighting for a seat at the table. And when power meets pride, something always breaks. After the film wrapped, Tupac claimed Janet changed her number. "Guess I wasn't her type," he said, half joking. But everyone who knew him said he wasn't laughing. The fallout. Two legends, one rift. When Poetic Justice premiered, fans believed they'd seen real chemistry. But off-screen, their friendship was already gone. Tupac felt disrespected, and Janet, ever the professional, stayed silent. She never addressed the rumor, never denied it, never defended it. That silence became her armor. Tupac turned his pain into pride. He didn't attack her publicly, but the bitterness lingered in his tone. To him, Janet had symbolized everything fake about Hollywood, smiling in public while judging in private. And yet, despite the tension, both stars went on to greatness. Tupac's art grew deeper, sharper, more honest. Janet's image became more powerful, her control more complete. But for fans, that moment on the Poetic Justice set became myth, one request that revealed how fragile fame really is. Why it still matters. 3 decades later, people still talk about it, because that story wasn't just about a kiss. It was about fear, identity, and the invisible walls inside fame. Janet wasn't cruel. She was cautious, living in a time when AIDS hysteria ruled the headlines. Tupac wasn't reckless. He was proud, tired of being seen as dangerous just because of who he was. Their story showed how easily misunderstanding turns into conflict, and how power can twist even the smallest moments. Janet fought to protect her image. Tupac fought to protect his dignity. And in their own ways, both were right. That's why it still matters, because it's not just gossip. It's a reflection of how fear divides us, even when we're trying to do the right thing. Legacy. The scene that defined two icons. Over time, the scandal faded. But the story never died. Janet Jackson went on to become one of the most influential performers in pop history, a master of discipline and reinvention. Tupac became something more, a prophet of pain and truth, whose words still echo decades after his death. They never reconciled. They never spoke again. But that one scene, that one controversy, became part of both their legacies. Janet represented control. Tupac represented chaos. And Poetic Justice captured them both at their most human. Neither of them won that battle, but both walked away with what they valued most. Janet kept her boundaries. Tupac kept his pride. And together, they created a moment that would outlive them both. Because sometimes, the most powerful stories in Hollywood aren't in the script. They're hidden behind the camera, in the silence between two legends who refuse to bend. In the end, Poetic Justice wasn't just a movie. It was prophecy. And the scene we never saw, the trust that never came, was the one that told us everything.